Hello, Brandon Clayton, the Algebra Guy here. And as you see on your screen, our discussion today is how to solve simple interest word problems, like the one you see in front of you. Natalie deposited 12,500 in her bank account, where it will earn her 4% interest. How much money she's going to make in 5 years? Simple interest. Now, interest is really important because it's how the world. I want to say how the world goes around, but interest is such a big part of it with inflation and investing and buying houses, cars, and so forth. So let's know how to do the numbers. Here are the two questions we want to answer. How do we use the simple interest formula and how to solve simple interest word problems? So it's pretty straightforward. We're just dealing with simple interest today. If an amount of money P is the principal is invested for a period of T years at an annual rate of R, the amount of interest I is earned. So what is all that talking about? So there's an equation that says to find I, the interest. So we want to find interest. We're going to take the P, the principal, which is the amount you started with. This is your initial original amount. And then there's an R for rate that's applied to it. And there's T for how many years. And we're going to use this equation to figure out different parts of this equation, the interest, principal, rate, and time. So let's get into it. Interest earned according to this formula is called simple interest. There's another interest called compound interest, which is really exciting, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Find the simple interest earned after 3 years on $500 at an interest rate of 6%. So before I do anything on this, I'm going to recall my formula that says I equals P R T. And then I'm going to start plugging in what I have and identify what I'm looking for. So find the simple interest, that's I. So we're looking for I when we have a principal of $500 times the rate of 6%. We need to change that to a decimal, 0.06. And it's better actually to use parentheses because you can see how those dots can get mixed up and confused if it's a dot or a decimal or a multiplication sign or a decimal. And we got T, time, is 3 years, time in years. So, and there it is. That's pretty much our answer. At this point, it's just calculator work, right? So we just go 500 times 0.06 times 3, and we get 90. And let's see if that makes sense. Yeah, that should be good. So I'm going to do it one more time just to be sure. Times 3 times 0.06 and 90. Yeah. So we would have made $90 of interest if we would have invested $500 at a 6% rate for 3 years. That's not a whole lot, but we didn't invest a whole lot either. And that's not a really high interest rate. All right, this one's asking us to find the principal. I equals P R T. Find the principal this time if the interest is 178. And we don't know the principal, so I'm just going to leave that P. The rate is 4%. So this is 0.04. And for how many years? 2 years. So we're going to isolate this P by dividing this side by 0.04 times 2. 0.04 times 2, which I probably could have just easily simplified. So I'm going to do that now. What is 0.04 times 2? 0.04 times 2. So that's the same thing as 0.08. So I'm going to divide over here by 0.08 because that's the same thing over here. This crosses out. Now I just have P equals 178 divided by 0.08. So it looks like we had originally started with 2225. Let's make sure we answer the question. Find the principal invested if you got $178 of interest and over 2 years and at this rate. So we actually started with 2225 if this was the case. All right, and I want to make sure you pause it and work these before I do. Try to do this one by yourself. In this one, we're going to find the rate. Oh, I started that wrong. So our equation says I equals P R T. Find the rate if a principal of 8,200. So for P, we got 8,200. Earned 3772 interest. That's for the I, 3772 in 4 years. So let's put R here just to keep it in the same order. It doesn't have to be there. So we're looking for R. Let's multiply 8,200 times 4 to make this a little bit more simplified. 8,200 times 4, 32,800. So this is 32,800. R equals 3772. Now we divide both sides by 32,800, 32,800. And that'll give us the rate. So now we just left with R equals, so let's find out. So we got on the calculator already, let's go ahead and clear it. 3772 divided by 32,800. And there's our decimal, which we can convert to a percent by moving this to the right twice. So that'd be 11.5%. That's a pretty nice percent, by the way. Just in case you don't know, the inflation rate every year, your money is loses its value by about 3%. And you can invest pretty conservatively between 5%, 8% in most mutual funds, and conservative investments. So 11% is pretty good. All right, Nathalie deposited $12,500 in her bank account, where it will earn 4% interest. How much interest will Natalie earn in 5 years? All right, again, we're going to set it up. I equals PRT. And we're looking for how much interest in 5 years. So we're going to keep the I. The P is 12,500 times our rate of 4.04 to represent 4%, and for 5 years. Again, just a straightforward calculator problem at this point, because we knew how to set it up. 12.5 times 0.04 times 5. And so we have $2,500 of interest under those circumstances. All right, Lauren lent his brother $3,000 to help him buy a car. In 4 years, his brother paid him back the $3,000 plus $660 in interest. What was the rate if he paid him back $660 in interest? So what's the rate? So we're going to start out again with I equals PRT. The interest, what is the rate? What is the interest? So $660 was the interest. The principal was $3,000 to help him out. We're looking for the rate. So we do have time though. So what is the time? 4 years. But we don't know the rate. So 4 times 3 is 12,000 times R equals 600. We can divide by 12,000. It gets rid of that. Do it on the same thing on this side, because of the law of equality, the property of equality of division. These cancel. That leaves me with 6 over 120, which is the same as 1 over 200, I'm guessing. Let me just double check it. Well, that's going to be a pretty small decimal. So I'm going to need a decimal anyway, so I might as well just bring up the calculator. So I'm going to go ahead and do the whole number, since a fraction is not going to help me here to find the rate. 600 divided by 12, 1, 2, 3,000. So there it is, 5%. So it should have been 1 out of 20, because I believe that's 5%. So this rate is going to be, if you move the decimal twice, 5%. All right. Eduardo noticed that his new car loan paper stated that with an interest rate of 7.5%, he would pay $6,596.25 in interest over 5 years. How much did he borrow to pay for his car? So the question they're asking us is what? How much did he borrow is asking about the principal. So we want to know the principal if that's how much he borrowed. So let's set it up again. I equals PRT. We want to find the principal on this, so I know I have interest. The interest was, my goodness, that's a lot of interest. 6,596.25 equals, we're looking for P. We know the rate is 7.5%. Percent, we're going to divide it by 100. So this is 1, 2. So it's going to give us 0.075. And T in years, 5 years. We're going to start to simplify this a little bit by doing 0.075 times 5. 0.075 times 5 is 0.375. So that's 0.375 times P equals all of this, 659,625. So now we need to divide both sides by 0.375 to get this P by itself, and divide this one to get our answer. And I would say be careful with all these little numbers and whatnot, because it can get kind of tricky. And I need to write more neat, by the way, because a lot of times when you start to get into many layers of a problem, you can make a mistake just because not being neat. A negative or a decimal sign can be confused. 6596.25 divided by 0.375. And there we go. There's our principal. So now we know that P, we started out with 17,590. So I thought so. It's a car. So that's how much he started at. The sticker price said this, but after 5 years with this interest, he's paid $6,000 in interest. Like, that's almost half of what the car is. So it's the third of what the car is in only 5 years. So interest is a beast. If it's on your side, fantastic. But if you're fighting against it, it's a tough animal to overcome. So you want to be on the best side of it. Let's work this last problem. Caroline got $900 as graduation gifts and invested it in a 10-month certificate of deposit that earned 2.1%. How much interest did this investment earn? So we want to know the interest. I equals PRT. Now, there's one thing that's different about this problem, and I'm going to show you here in just a second. Maybe you can see it. Maybe you can try to work this actually before I do it and see if you get it right. There's one little thing that will trip up most students because you get into a kind of a rut of working the problem and don't catch it. All right, so let's go ahead and start filling in. So principal, she started out with 900. We have a rate of 2.1%, so this goes as a decimal 1, 2. That's 0.021. And we have our time. So our time should be in years, but guess what? It's in months. So we're going to have to convert that to years. So 10 months is how many years? That's 10 divided by 12. Whatever that is, right? So 5 over 6 is what it reduces to, but it doesn't matter. I think it's going to be a repeating decimal, so 0.83333, something like that. I'm going to leave it that way. It's hard to put in this type of calculator, but we'll see what we can do. All right, so let me pull out my calculator and put it in there. So I have parentheses in this calculator, so I'm going to start out with 900. Actually, I'm going to start out with the toughest part, which is that decimal. So I'm going to go 5 divided by 6 is equal to this whole decimal. Now I'm going to start multiplying everything. Times 900 times 0.021. Okay, there you go. So that's a lot easier to do that way. Start off with this 5 divided by 6 piece and get that decimal out the way. So now we know our interest will be $15 $1.75 if it's for 10 months. So that makes sense, right? It's not even the whole year, and the amount's not that big, and the interest is really small, so we shouldn't expect to receive a whole lot of interest on that investment. 2 questions that we answered: how to use simple interest formula and how to use it in word problems. So yes, we answered both of those questions. Guys, thanks for tuning in again. My name is Brandon Clayton, the Algebra Guy, and I will see you next lesson.